Hey friends, it is me, Dr. D, back with another video. So for those new to the channel, I am Dr. D. I am the servant that the Lord has entrusted with this ministry, Psych and Spirit Ministries. I'm also the owner of Come Alive Coaching and Transformative Services. So I am here to help you on your journey, right? So God will give many of us prophetic words. He'll give many of us promises. We will be headed in a particular direction. However, God often gives a process to get us there. And so I am your sister friend who is here to help you with that process. And so today we're going to jump in. And before we do, I ask that you would like this video, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff that helps get the YouTube algorithm percolating so we can get more folks here to hear these words to hopefully help them steward their process on their way to their promise. So today we're going to jump in with some red flags of relationships. Now, this is a very common concept, but the reason why I want to share it today on our video is because through my individual coaching, my counseling, through even ministry work, one of the things that I have seen to get people off their track and off the path that God has ordained for them more than anything else is relationships, right? Friendships, romantic relationships, relationships with family, but relationships, relational things, 9 times out of 10 are some of those things that are getting folks off the track. And so I wanted to make sure to touch on that today, because really when God sends us that right person at the right time with a very clear purpose in our lives, and He's sanctioned and ordained that relationship, we'll know it. We feel it. Even if we can't put our finger on why, we know this is my person, this is God's time, and He's putting us together for a reason, right? A lot of times the harder to discern is the folks that in and of themselves, there's nothing wrong with anybody, so please don't hear what I'm not saying, but the folks that maybe the enemy has sent, right? Who kind of, they're kind of that just close enough person, they're that good enough, good for now type person, or maybe they're a great person, but the timing just quite isn't right. God has you in a place where He wants to do some work with you, and great person, but this is not the time that God ordained. Or maybe they don't quite have a clear purpose, right, for being in your life. And again, folks are not tools, so don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying, if I can get something out of you, then you can be here. No. But if God, for example, is causing or telling you He wants you to build a ministry, and this person is maybe trying to persuade you to make it a business, right? So that's kind of what I'm talking about. So again, no one is a throwaway human. No one is a tool. We're not going to be saying folks are counterfeits or anything like that. But we are saying God ordains relationships, and we need to be mindful to steward that, because the enemy is going to send some too, right, to throw us off track. So I have a few red flags to be on the lookout for. I am your non-judgmental sister friend, Dr. D. I'm not telling you what I think. I'm telling you what I know. So if you are curious about a relationship in your life, whether it's romantic, whether it is a business relationship, coworkers, colleagues, whether it is, a family or friends or whatever, stay tuned. This is your video. So the first red flag is when you start to become so consumed with someone that you lose sight of God. That relationship is not likely the one that God has ordained at this time, right? Only because He is not going to send you somebody who just kind of activates all that stuff in you that gets you so fixated and so focused on them, what they're doing, what they need, what's going on, are they happy, am I pleasing them, all of that, to where you lose sight of your quality time with God, your intimate time with God. You've spent 7 hours today talking to that person, and maybe you've said a quick prayer over your food. God, please bless this food. Thank you. Amen. Right? Even if that's the person that God has for you, at some point in your life, you need to touch base with Him. It could be your own flesh, kind of causing you to mishandle something that He's brought into your life. But it could also be the enemy coming in at a desperate time, at a lonely time, at whatever time. And this person is great, so you just latch on, right? And you forget the work that God is doing in you, that He called you to do. So if you're starting to get so consumed by this person, you lose sight of God. That is a huge red flag in a relationship. Speed. And this one I cannot, if I could stand up and jump up and down, I would. Speed is often the number one weapon of the unwell. I have been in clinical practice for psychology for well over a decade. And when I see folks who charge in and all of a sudden I'm swept off my feet and it's love at first sight and we're talking about the future in 2 weeks and we're gonna get married, we're gonna have kids, or we're gonna start this business, or we're gonna start this ministry, whatever, it's just speedy, 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 speedy. That is usually the number one weapon of the unwell. And the reason why they do that, whether they realize it or not, is that they in and of themselves have an inkling or an idea or an insecurity that if things are slow and steady and unfold naturally, that you're likely to see them for who they are, their failings, their shortcomings. All humans have them. But when someone is insecure to that point, whether they can put their finger on it or not, and they feel the need to rush you, to lock you down, right? Move in with me right away. Let's get married right away. Let's have kids right away. Let's do this, do that. Let's sign these contracts for this business right away. When they're pushing, 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 even if their words are saying, let's take it slow, let's let things unwind, speed is usually a red flag. Because either there's someone who, like I said, kind of knows or understands that I have to love bomb you and snatch you into this thing and get you so spun up in me so you're stuck and you're addicted, right? Or they're on the other end of the continuum where they are so vulnerable and so open and so in need of relationship that they'll take anything, and as soon as you come along, they're like, yes, let's do this, right? So either one of those things is usually not the best foundation to start a relationship on. Kind of piggybacking on that idea of love bombing, which means kind of come in and just, what is it that you've never had, right? What is it that you've always wanted? Let me give it, right? You've never had someone to affirm you. Let me affirm you all day, every day. You've never had someone to do nice things for you. Let me do as many nice things as I can. You've never had somebody to promise you this or do that. I'm going to come in, I'm going to bomb you, right? With all those things. Along the lines of that is perfection. Perfection. When folks come in, this is our third red flag. When folks come in and they're presenting you the picture perfect idea of, everything, right? You've wanted this and you've always wanted that and you've never had that. And I promise I'm going to give you everything and more, everything you've ever needed, everything you've ever wanted, so forth and so on. That is a red flag, okay? Because no human is perfect. No one's past is perfect. No one's current relationship is perfect. We just are not perfect. So we want to be very mindful about kind of coming in and unloading all of our stuff on someone. These are the traumas I've been through. These are all the ways I've been hurt. These are all the things I'm hoping for, all of that, because sometimes when someone is not the best person to be in a relationship with for numerous reasons, they will use that. They'll use that to appear perfect. They'll speak to everything you want, everything you need. They won't be any of the things you don't want. And in that, it will feel very perfect. And that is a red flag. So again, if God sends the right person in your life at the right time for the right purpose, things are going to feel great. They might even move along speedily, but there's going to be an ease. There's going to be a peace. That person is not going to be pandering to what it is you've said you've always wanted. I always wanted this. And wow, look at, they're doing that. I've always wanted that. And they're doing that too. It's going to feel very different. These things that I'm talking about are kind of a manipulative kind of, there's usually something underlying these behaviors, even if the person doesn't see it as such or even realize they're doing it. Because again, all of us have areas of our lives where we're less well than we could be. Doesn't make us a bad person, but you trying to be mindful to steward the process that God has given you, you want to notice these flags and you want to take your time to see who this person truly is. Because it's really hard to spot red flags when you're running full force. Down the aisle, to the bedroom, into that business agreement, whatever. And something called cognitive dissonance can take place. And so basically that means if I throw myself in this thing and I'm like, yes, it's me and you to the end of the world, whatever. And then I start seeing some of these red flags later, there's some tension that is created in my psyche where I'm like, I thought he was this amazing person or she was this awesome person. Now I'm seeing this. It doesn't make sense. So what I'm likely to do is go with what I want to see over what I'm actually seeing because I'm in too deep to see clearly. So we have to be very mindful of that, and we need to make sure that we're going slowly. It's easier to catch those red flags when you're walking, because you're like, interesting. I'm gonna stick that away and pay attention to that, versus when you're running and you might not even see them. Inconsistency is another major red flag. Again, either someone is to some extent what they're telling you they are, or they're not, right? If it's like, oh, well, this person tells me that they're super loving and they're kind and all of this, but also they're like gossiping about everybody that they can talk about, and they're telling me about all these past relationships that have failed because of these things. Or this person tells me they're really emotionally in tune and intuitive, but when this situation went down, they couldn't seem to process why that person responded that way. Which one is it, right? What's going on? Inconsistencies, they can be kind of subtle, but when someone says something and behaves a different way, major red flag. That is going to come back to you and on you and your relationship with them. So be very mindful. Let's see. Okay, so this one, folks kind of, let's see. Folks kind of have these undertones and these currents to their word choice. So by this, I mean, they're saying something, but you're kind of picking up something else. You kind of feel something different, right? So it feels like, one, they're being very intentional about what they say. They might have a little bit of a mask on. But even if they don't, it's like they're saying something like, let me see, maybe something like, you're so much better than my last relationship, right? You really want to work with me and do things that make me happy, right? And they didn't. They're saying something, but there's an undercurrent, right? They're starting to train you for how they want you to behave, and praise you for being different and better. And you can stay in my good graces by doing this, right? That person didn't, and that's why we're not together. So they'll say things, but there's this undercurrent underneath. Or, oh, I know I'm talking about Sally a lot, but it's only because, Sally is this, but you're different. I would never talk about you like that. I'm only saying that about Sally because I trust you so much, right? In the South, we have a term, saying, a dog that'll bring a bone will carry one, right? So if you're a gossip, if you're gossiping to me about Sally, you're going to go take my stuff and carry it over there to Jill, right? And so forth. So when we notice those undertones and those currents to what folks are saying, that is definitely a red flag. Another one is things just don't feel quite right. You want to believe what you're seeing. You want to believe what you're hearing. You want to just fall into this relationship, into this thing, but something in you that you can't quite put your finger on just isn't allowing it to feel right. You feel the need to constantly check in with friends and family. They said this, they did that. What do you think? They're great, right? They're a good person, right? You're kind of looking for that reassurance. You're looking for that, I'm on the right track, right? This is good. When it is, you will know. You'll know. There won't be that kind of unsettling in your spirit, right? So our brains think, our bodies feel, right? And we don't always have the language to articulate what our bodies feel, but our bodies are really cool in the fact that they're not necessarily rationalizing the feelings out of everything. Our brain will rationalize our thoughts. We might think, oh, that's weird. They said this, but did that. But maybe it's just because they're having a tough day, or maybe it's because whatever, we'll rationalize out. But our brain, our body, it just feels. So when something isn't not quite right, our body will just feel unsettled. It'll feel like something's not right. It's not going to change that or adjust that because you're telling yourself something different. So when you feel kind of a little uneasy or a little bit like, I can't put my finger on it, but I don't know, pay attention to that, right? That is a massive, massive red flag. Blowing past your boundaries is another one. So when you set a boundary, no matter how small with someone, and that individual blows past it, oh, I want to take things slow. Okay, yeah, I want to take things slow too, but let's move in together, right? Or, oh, I'm really trying to focus on, God first. Yeah, I think that's great. You totally should. But then they intentionally take up all the time in your day. Or, oh, I really want to be mindful of X, Y, and Z, right? But they just kind of slowly push past, hey, I got to get off the phone. I got to take care of something. Well, okay, just 5 more minutes, right? Let's just wrap this up. Let's just whatever. Those small little pushes past your boundaries are a big deal. You're having a conversation, you say, I need you to hear me out. Well, I need you to hear me out, and this is what's going on, and blah, blah. That was a blow past your boundary, right? So be very mindful of that, because those tend to start small and they manifest into something a lot bigger. Another red flag is when you have way too much in common. You're a Christian, I'm a Christian. You're working on ministry, I'm working on ministry. You love the color blue, I love the color blue. You like to paint your toenails, I like just everything is exactly like, we got the same car, we got the same, we like the same houses, we like the same music, we like, of course there's gonna be some similarity when you're just well matched with someone. But when it feels like, whoa, like they like everything I like, they do everything I do, they want all the same type of relationships, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes that person is mirroring you. And it might not be intentional. They might not even know they're doing it. They might just have a loose sense of self. So whoever you are, they just start to kind of meld into that. But it's very possible that person is mirroring you. They're seeing who you are. They're reflecting it back. And psychology proves to us that we tend to like things that are familiar. So we can't help but be drawn to someone who's very similar to us or likes the same things and that sort of stuff. So just be mindful. If you start to notice that that person's picking up on a lot of the things you do, red flag, right? If they didn't come to the table with all that stuff, of course, as you get to know someone, things ebb and flow. But if it just starts to feel like, whoa, everything I like, everything I dislike, everything I want, everything, like they're just like me. Just be mindful. Let's see. When they say things like nobody mattered before you, right? Before you, like nobody else matters. You're the one for me. It's all about you, so forth and so on. Again, perhaps you've dated and now you actually found your wife or your husband, or maybe you had other business partners and this is actually the one for you, or other colleagues or whatever. But be very mindful about how folks talk about people they deem that they no longer need, or how they talk about folks who are now out of their lives, because they will do the same thing to you when they're ready to replace you. So just be mindful. Again, anybody who plays a role in someone's life deserves some level of dignity and respect, even if it was a horrible relationship. To be able to simply say, yeah, that, at the beginning it was this, it ended up being that. I'm so blessed to have you in my life. There's a way to say that isn't like, see how much I'm devaluing that person so I can lift you up. Look how amazing and awesome and different you are. Because again, they're grooming you for something not too good, probably. Another red flag with regard to relationships is this person never meets a stranger. So it is one thing for someone to be outgoing and extroverted and just enjoyable to be around. That's perfectly fine. But when you get the feeling like this person is always performing, always working to manage their impression, they have poor boundaries, right? I just met you and you just talked my ear off for an hour about all of your past, whatever, or about how much money you have in your car and all this, like when they're trying to manage their impression, when they're trying to perform, that is not a great thing. Be very mindful of that, okay? Because a lot of times those folks have maybe a less desirable sense of self that we would like to see before coupling with someone else. Another huge red flag is they close ranks around you. So all of a sudden they're telling you, maybe you should think about, how much you talk to your family. Maybe you talk to them a little too much. You should consider, maybe how much you're going to church or how much you're telling those people. Do you really need that many friends? They start to kind of close in around you. What they're doing is they're starting to isolate you. Something goes wrong and they swoop right in. They take up all your time. I'm here for you. I got you. All of that. Something's going right and they do the same thing. They swoop in. They don't leave room in your life for anybody else but them. That is not going to be a good thing because, again, if their intentions are not the best and they might not even realize they're doing this, if their intentions are not the best, then when things start to go down, you don't have anybody else to lean on. You don't have anyone else who's there in your corner. You don't have anyone to check that behavior and say, hey, the dynamic y'all got going on, are you sure about that? That doesn't seem quite right. Like you don't have the people around you to help you. And even if the person doesn't realize they're doing it or they're not doing it intentionally, that speaks to someone who is very emotionally empty. They need you to fill them up, fill them up, fill them up, fill them up. And I guarantee you that is not going to be the best for a long-term relationship. Let's see. This one is another red flag. So when they have trouble handling stillness, silence, rest, if they're very restless, if they are, adrenaline seeking, all those sorts of things, that in and of itself is not necessarily a red flag. But when someone has a hard time being fulfilled, being on their own, right? Being themselves, taking time in between relationships, taking time in between projects and activities, if they have to always be going, a lot of times that's because they're uncomfortable with who they are and they cannot settle and just be. Or their sense of identity is wrapped up in achievement, getting things done, all of that sort of stuff. And again, in and of itself, that's not the worst trait to have, but coupled with some of these others, or depending on the underlying reason why they hustle, can't sit still, don't want to be alone, all of that, that person might not be in the best space to be in a relationship with you and have it be a healthy one. Let's see. Another red flag is that they have a really hard time responding to your emotional needs. So this is where you're going to see a lot of times folks will start to groom you and teach you like, oh, I'm having a bad day. And they'll just kind of suck you in. Oh, is it okay? What can I do for you? So forth and so on. Or maybe even you're having a tough time and they're like, okay, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. I'm here for you. And then maybe once an acceptable amount of time has passed, then all of a sudden they've taken to their fainting couch and they're like, I was there for you. And now like, oh, look at what's happening to me. And it's just this constant kind of emptiness that needs to be poured into by someone else. So they have a hard time responding to your emotional needs because they are so emotionally needy, right? And even if they can squeak you out a little bit of concern, the tide will turn very quickly and they will need you to pour into them, likely indefinitely. So if this is not a dynamic you enjoy, which most folks don't, that's a really big red flag. The last one that I'm going to talk about today is them passing tasks. So what can sometimes happen, tasks, things that you need to do, what can sometimes happen is folks who have this styles like this that are maybe not the most healthy for a relationship, they'll swoop in, they'll be perfect. Oh, I love you, I need you, you're amazing, blah, 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 love bomb, love bomb, love bomb. I'm the perfect person for you. I'll give you what you've never had, all this stuff, right? And then slowly but surely you will start to notice them starting to pass things off to you. Oh, you can grab the groceries, right? You don't mind proofreading this paper for me? Oh, you don't mind it if I don't know, you can gas up the car for me, right? But they're going to start to kind of push off things that they historically were responsible for or should be responsible onto you. They start to pass those tasks over. And so a lot of times what we can see with folks like this is that relationships can sometimes start to become transactional, and most likely it's transactional in their favor. So if you start needing too much from them, you start wanting them to actually step up, oh, that's a no-go. But a lot of times you will start to see they start to heap their life, their needs, all of that stuff on you. For folks who are very empathic, very warm, very giving, right? It can be easy to do those things because you enjoy helping folks out. You enjoy being there for them. But if you start to notice that the relationship is getting a little bit unbalanced, I'm giving more than I'm getting. And again, it's not like we're keeping score tit for tat, but this person's just kind of pulling and withdrawing from me. That can be a massive red flag. So I just wanted to share that because here recently in some of the counseling and ministry work that I've been doing with folks, relationship stress, all those sorts of things have been coming up more and more. And those are the types of things that can single-handedly take your focus and your attention off of God, off of what He has for you, and place it on someone else, on a relationship. And just really, when we're leaning on other folks to that degree, we feel off balanced. We feel not great, like more often than not. It's a really dangerous position to be in. So I just wanted to share some of the red flags that I've been helping to talk people through, coach them through, mentor them through, because if you're seeing this type of stuff pop up, your brain, your loneliness, your heart, whatever, is going to want you to ignore them and going to want you to see them as just a quirk or a personality style. And they very well could be. But they're still red flags. There's still things you need to attend to. So I just wanted to share that with y'all today. I love y'all so much. I hope this was helpful. If you want more red flags, let me know in the comments. I unfortunately have seen a ton throughout my years. And then also, if you're curious about anything in particular, a lot of folks are interested in like narcissistic abuse and what does that mean? Codependency. How do I know if I'm codependent? They'll, wonder about all sorts of personality disorders. What are they and what does that mean? All kinds of questions around relationships, right? How do I start to rebuild a damaged marriage or whatever? So if you have any questions like that, drop them in the comments. I really do read each and every comment. I pray for y'all. I try and respond to them. So let me know. I want to make sure you're getting what you need on this journey. I will obviously pray about it and share what the Lord leads. I try not to speak just on Dr. D's authority. So please leave that in the comments. And then as always, please like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let's get the algorithm percolating so more folks can hear these words and hopefully find some peace and some direction on their journey. So I love y'all and I will talk to you soon.